Chosen one, you are not here by coincidence, and you are not listening by chance. This moment has been marked in heaven, appointed in the Spirit, and released in perfect timing for you. Wealth is not always about money alone. It is about divine purpose, legacy, and elevation. And you have been set apart for more than survival. You have been chosen to break cycles, to end patterns of lack, and to establish something entirely new for your bloodline. Chosen one, when God sets his eyes on a person, he does not merely bless them for themselves. He appoints them as a vessel, a carrier, a living conduit through which blessing flows to everyone connected to them. That is why your spirit has been restless. That is why ordinary paths have never satisfied you. You are standing at the edge of a supernatural shift, where sudden elevation, divine provision, and heaven-sent transformation begin to manifest. Anointed one, Scripture reminds us in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3, that the vision awaits its appointed time, but when it speaks, it will not lie. What has been prepared for you has not been delayed, it has been preserved. You are stepping into alignment with what was written before you ever recognized it. And remember, chosen one, God's reminders do not always arrive through loud words or explanations. Sometimes what sustains you is something quiet, simple, and steady to return to in moments of reflection. What has been prepared rests just below, waiting in stillness. Chosen one, you are here because something in you was already prepared before this moment arrived. I have learned, through my own seasons of confusion and waiting, that heaven does not interrupt a life randomly. When a word reaches you and settles deep instead of passing through, it is because your spirit was already tuned to receive it. This is not information, this is alignment. This is the kind of moment Ecclesiastes speaks of, a time appointed for a purpose under heaven. And right now, heaven is leaning into your story. Anointed one, I want to speak to you not as someone standing above you, but as someone who has walked through seasons where nothing made sense, where provision felt delayed, and where the calling felt heavier than the resources. I remember times when I looked at my circumstances and thought, if this promise is real, why does my reality look like this? And yet, every delay was shaping discernment. Every closed door was refining my vision. What I did not know then was that God was not withholding. He was preparing me to carry something without being crushed by it. Chosen one, there is a reason wealth has always felt different to you. You never saw it the way others did, even when you did not have it. While people around you spoke of money with fear, shame, or resignation, something in you quietly refused that narrative. You may not have had the language for it at the time, but deep down you understood that money is not a master. It is a tool. It is a carrier. It is a means, not an identity. That understanding does not come from upbringing alone. It comes from assignment. I remember sitting in rooms where people complained endlessly about lack, about systems, about how life was unfair. And while I felt empathy, I could never fully join that mindset. Something in me kept asking different questions. How does this grow? How does this multiply? How does this become sustainable? That same pattern is in you. You think in terms of systems, not survival. You think in terms of legacy, not just relief. That is not ambition alone. That is stewardship waking up. Chosen one, this is the first sign. You think differently about money because you were never meant to serve it, fear it, or chase it blindly. You see it as a seed. You understand, even instinctively, that what is planted with wisdom produces fruit beyond one season. While others in your family may have been taught that wealth is dangerous or reserved for someone else, you quietly rejected that ceiling. Not in rebellion, but in recognition. Your spirit knew that lack was not your inheritance. Anointed one, this mindset often isolates you before it elevates you. People may have misunderstood your questions, your ideas, your refusal to settle for just enough. I know what it feels like to be labeled unrealistic, simply because you refuse to normalize limitation. But what they called unrealistic was actually prophetic. You were seeing what had not yet manifested. That is how faith works. Hebrews tells us that faith gives substance to what is hoped for, long before it can be proven. Chosen one, wealth thinking is not greed when it is rooted in responsibility. You do not desire abundance to impress. You desire it to build, to stabilize, to protect, and to change the trajectory of those who come after you. That is why you think about ownership, not just income. That is why you imagine assets that outlive you. That is why your mind naturally goes to businesses, land, and structures that produce rather than decay. You are not obsessed with money. You are committed to impact. I need you to hear this clearly. This clarity was not learned by accident. It was entrusted. God does not reveal blueprints to everyone. He gives them to those he intends to use as builders. Scripture speaks of Joseph being shown the future long before he had the authority to manage it. The dreams came first. The maturity came later, and the provision followed at the appointed time. Chosen one, if you have ever felt out of place in conversations about money, purpose, or success, it is because you were not meant to blend in. You were meant to shift the atmosphere. This first sign is subtle, but it is foundational. You cannot build generational wealth with a survival mindset. Heaven rewired your thinking early because your assignment required it. And as we go deeper, you will begin to see that this way of thinking was only the beginning. What God planted in your mind was preparing you for what He intends to place in your hands. Chosen one. There is a weight you have carried for as long as you can remember, and it did not begin with you. Long before you understood words like responsibility or destiny, you felt it in your chest. A quiet pressure, an unspoken knowing that your life mattered beyond your own comfort. While others moved freely, making choices without consequence, you sensed that your decisions echoed outward, touching people you loved, people who came before you, and people who would come after you. Anointed one, this is the second sign, and it is not light. You carry generational burdens. I want to speak honestly here, not romantically. This burden does not always feel spiritual. Sometimes it feels exhausting. Sometimes it feels unfair. I know this because I have lived seasons where I felt like if I failed, it would not just be my failure. It would ripple backward and forward. Bills, expectations, unspoken hopes, and silent disappointments all seem to rest on my shoulders. And maybe you know that feeling too. Chosen one, many people live only for themselves. Their victories are personal and their losses are contained. But your life has never worked that way. When you succeed, others breathe easier. When you struggle, others feel the tension. It is as if your life has been appointed as a hinge point. That is not coincidence. That is calling. Scripture speaks of those who stand in the gap, those who repair breaches and restore paths to dwell in. You are one of them, whether you asked for it or not. Anointed one, this burden is not meant to crush you, though it has tried. It is meant to awaken you. You were born into a lineage that knew lack, disappointment, delayed dreams, or financial instability. You saw patterns repeat. You watched capable people shrink their expectations because survival demanded it. And somewhere deep inside you made a quiet vow. This stops with me. Even if you never said the words, your life has been shaped by that resolve. I remember realizing one day that my struggles were not random. They were training. I had to grow stronger than those before me because I was meant to carry further. I had to learn restraint, wisdom, and endurance, because what I would eventually steward required it. That is the hidden truth of generational burden. God does not assign it without also assigning the strength to bear it. He does not place weight on a life he has not reinforced. Chosen one, you have often felt like you could not afford to quit. Not because you were afraid, but because too much depended on you. That awareness can feel heavy, but it is also revealing. It means heaven trusts you. It means you were seen as capable of becoming the bridge between what was and what will be. Bridges feel pressure from both sides, but without them, no one crosses. Anointed one, this is why settling was never an option for you. Even when you tried, something inside resisted. You knew that accepting less was not humility. It was avoidance. You understood, even subconsciously, that if you stopped short, the cycle would continue. And God, who sees generations at once, placed that awareness inside you so the chain could finally break. Hear this clearly. Generational burdens are not signs of abandonment. They are signs of selection. They mean blessings are being prepared that must travel through someone strong enough to carry them without corruption. When the weight lifts, it will not only lift from you, it will lift from those connected to you. Your obedience will become their relief. Your breakthrough will become their testimony. And as heavy as this sign is, it leads directly into the next one, because the same God who places weight also ignites fire. Chosen one. There is a fire in you that refuses to go out, and no amount of disappointment has been able to extinguish it. This is the third sign, and it is unmistakable. You carry an unexplainable ambition, not the kind that seeks applause, but the kind that keeps you moving when logic says stop. You may have questioned it at times. You may have even tried to silence it, but it always returns. Anointed one, I want to be transparent here. There were moments in my life when I wished I could be satisfied with less. I watched others find peace in routines that felt suffocating to me. I tried to convince myself that wanting more was selfish or unrealistic. But no matter how hard I tried, that inner voice would not leave. It kept saying, "This is not the end. There is more ahead." And I know you recognize that voice. Chosen one, this ambition is not arrogance. It is not restlessness for its own sake. It is divine insistence. It is God's way of ensuring you do not abandon what you were created to carry. Ambition like this cannot be taught. It is not inherited from parents who never had room to dream. It is planted. Scripture shows us again and again that God places desire before fulfillment, vision before provision. Think about how many times you have been knocked down, only to rise again with no clear explanation. People may have thought you were stubborn or unrealistic, but the truth is simpler. Your spirit knew the assignment was unfinished. That is why setbacks never fully defeated you. They slowed you down, yes. They wounded you at times, but they never erased the vision. Anointed one, this fire often isolates you before it positions you. Others may not understand why you cannot settle into comfort, why average feels unbearable. They may say you are chasing something imaginary, but what they call imagination is actually foresight. You are seeing the outline of what has not yet formed. That is how God prepares builders. He shows them the structure long before the materials arrive. I remember seasons where nothing in my external life matched the scale of what I carried internally. That mismatch was painful, but it was also revealing. It taught me that my ambition was not dependent on circumstances. It was anchored in calling. The same is true for you. Your environment never defined the size of your vision, and that alone sets you apart. Chosen one, Most people dream within the limits of what they have seen. You dream beyond it. You imagine possibilities your family never considered. Not because you think you are better, but because you were meant to go further. Your ambition is not about escaping your past. It is about redeeming it. You are not running away from where you came from. You are carrying it forward into something new. This is why wealth is not optional for you. It is functional. It is the fuel required to execute what has been entrusted to your spirit. Without it, the vision remains trapped. With it, the assignment moves. That is why this ambition keeps pressing you forward. It is heaven reminding you that what you are carrying requires expansion. And as this fire continues to burn, it will soon confront another truth about you, one that explains why comfort has never been enough. Chosen one. There comes a stretch in the journey where the fire is still alive, the calling is still clear, but the waiting has grown quiet and heavy. This is the season few talk about honestly, not because it lacks meaning, but because it requires endurance without applause. You know the promise is real, yet days begin to look ordinary. The urgency that once burned loud now asks for something deeper than excitement. It asks for faith that shows up even when nothing new happens. Anointed one. This is where many misunderstand what strength actually looks like. Strength here is not intensity, it is return. It is waking up and choosing alignment again when yesterday felt no different from today. It is doing the same faithful things when there is no visible progress to celebrate. I have lived this season. I remember moments where I wondered if the silence meant I had misheard God. But what I learned was this: silence is often not absence, it is maturation. Chosen one, promises do not only require belief, they require stamina. Heaven does not rush what must be sustained. If what is coming to you is meant to last generations, then the preparation cannot be shallow. That is why this phase feels slow. You are not being ignored, you are being rooted. Trees that grow fast break easily. Trees that endure seasons unseen become immovable. Anointed one, fatigue does not disqualify you. Weariness does not mean you lack faith. It means you have been faithful for a long time. There is a difference between doubting the promise and feeling tired while carrying it. God knows the difference. Scripture speaks of those who wait upon the Lord, renewing their strength, not because they never grew tired, but because they kept returning. Returning to trust, returning to obedience, returning to the quiet knowing that brought them this far. I think of ordinary days, making decisions no one sees, paying attention to details that feel small, choosing integrity when shortcuts would be easier, choosing restraint when frustration rises. These moments rarely feel spiritual, yet they are where faith is proven. This is where your future wealth is being taught how to obey you instead of controlling you. Consistency now prevents corruption later. Chosen one, waiting seasons reveal what emotional highs never can. They show you what remains when excitement fades. They show you whether you trust God for who He is, or only for what He gives. This is not punishment, it is refinement. Gold is not rushed through fire, it is held there until impurities surface and are removed. What feels like delay is actually protection. Anointed one. There were days I wanted a sign, a confirmation loud enough to silence every doubt. Instead, what I received was the invitation to remember. Remember the first moment the calling became undeniable. Remember how far you have already come. Remember the quiet ways provision showed up before you could explain it.